We're all on a unique, amazing journey seeking happiness and clarity, climbing the mountain of our lives. However, we all come across the same universal mental challenges that can prevent us from reaching the top of the mountain in the most effective way. In Buddhism, these are known as the Five Hindrances. To find clarity, overcoming them properly with right effort is paramount if we wish to make the most of this life. This video series aims to show you what the Five Hindrances are and how we can work with them mindfully in our lives. Our desires are deeply rooted, and in many ways, our culture feeds them. Seeking companionship, use our app and swipe to find love. Seeking relief from work and an escape from the 9 to 5, go on a holiday. Hungry? Eat this delicious burger and feel better. Unhappy with your appearance? Use our products to feel beautiful. Increase your desire is the bottom line. Add primal desires such as sex and status to the equation, and you have yourself a well-oiled machine, constantly dissatisfied, constantly upset with the present moment, and constantly leaning into the next. And often, desires have become such a familiar part of our internal landscape that we don't even think twice about how toxic they can be in our lives. And because of this, we lack a sense of urgency to work with these mind states mindfully. We're constantly fed the promise that if we become this or have this, we'll be happy, complete, and whole, which is what we're all chasing, right? Well, if that's what we're chasing, unfortunately, we're seeking it in the wrong place. This video aims to help break you out of the illusion and end with giving some practical tips on how we can do that. But first, we need to understand, how does desire manifest in our lives? It's 6 a.m. Your alarm is buzzing. Immediately thoughts rush into your mind of what you have to do in the day, generating anxiety. You jump out of bed and the cold immediately hits your warm body, prompting you to want to get back to bed, but you painfully resist, knowing that you have to get to work. So you move to the kitchen to quickly get the morning coffee going, to get the morning up and running. The smell of coffee beans makes you feel somewhat better, but the coffee machine is broken. You think to yourself, why me? Instead, you're left with the bitter taste of green tea. Not bad, but second place to what you usually have. Sipping your tea, you sit down for breakfast, and you browse through Instagram. You see entrepreneurs, people with perfect bodily proportions, fast cars, and you wish you could look and be this way. If I just get that, I'll be happy, you tell yourself. Anxiety fills your body as you head out the door, off to do your duties for the day. Okay, let's stop right there. This situation accurately depicts two ways in which the Buddha described desire. Desire for sense pleasures and the desire for becoming. Now, desire for sense pleasures is the more obvious of the two, which is the illusion of satisfaction that we have when we get something pleasurable through one of the 6 sense doors. This includes taste, sight, smell, touch, thoughts, and sound. We crave the pleasant, and when it doesn't go our way, we get anxious, angry, or sad. Now, not to condemn pleasantries. Obviously, when we have something, there is a satisfying nature to it. But where we get it wrong on a primal level is that we don't recognize and understand on an experiential level that these things are fleeting and impermanent. They're ultimately not going to satisfy us. We have something satisfying in the present moment, and then what happens? We seek the next sense pleasure, and then the next sense pleasure, and then the next sense pleasure. And like a dog on a chain, we run around in circles and circles and circles, never being satisfy, not ever appreciating that we'll never find lasting fulfillment this way. Another unskillful desire is the craving for becoming. This is the comparing mind, where we wish that we were something or someone else. This can be on the more obvious end of the spectrum, such as comparing ourselves to celebrities and being jealous of where they're at, but it's also as subtle as being with the sensation meditatively in order for it to go away. Now, it's also worth mentioning that it's actually okay to have certain desires. Want to feel more compassionate? Excellent. Want to work towards awakening? Great. Want to work to being of more service to the world? That's a-okay. We need to draw the line here between aspirations and expectations. Aspirations set the direction, and these are wholesome mind states. Whereas expectations are craving to be something else, where we hope something we want will happen and fear that it won't. So this is a very critical point, and it's worth reflecting on. Now, these are the two forms of how desire manifests. So what are some ways that we can practically work with desire so we don't suffer unnecessarily and cause suffering for other people? I can recall several years ago when I was invested in gaming. I had a really intense gaming addiction, sometimes spending up to 10 hours a day playing PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. I was living and breathing video games day in and day out. And one day, my computer wouldn't turn on. And what came to mind was disaster, and I genuinely meant it. So one of the first things that we have to do is to become aware of our otherwise unconscious cravings and attachments and desires that otherwise run our life. For me, it was video gaming. For you, it might be a warm cup of coffee in the morning or a hot shower. How would you respond if one of those were to be taken away from you? Yeah, it would suck to not have that morning coffee, right? These are the sorts of desires that we need to become aware of, because otherwise they sort of unconsciously just run in the background without us even being aware that they're there. The key here is to seek these pleasurable experiences and look beneath that to see if there's subtly some form of craving that you're otherwise unaware of. There's a story of how the Buddha would sit under the Bodhi tree before his enlightenment, where Mara, the embodiment of delusion, would throw everything at him to distract him from his attainment of liberation of the mind. In the Buddha's wisdom, he knew that these were just projections of mind, and dubbed the phrase, Mara, I see you. If we say the phrase, Mara, I see you, in other words, desire, I see you, we can use this as a skillful framing to sort of objectify the desire more readily. But simply just noticing our desires is only one step in a two-step process that the Buddha recommended. So one of the next things we can do is ask ourselves, what are the drawbacks of indulging in this desire? The biggest thing here is to understand that largely by indulging in desires, we can continually realize with wisdom that it is not going to satisfy us. Inevitably, we're going to return back to baseline and crave for the next thing. And not only this, but with wisdom, we also need to see that sometimes our desires lead us to do unwholesome things, i.e. things that cause suffering for ourselves and other people. And we do this out of greed and hatred, and for status and out of ego. Now, in terms of craving for becoming, it's very important to realize when the mind is in a comparative mind state, reliving the past or seeking something in the future. Then, if only for brief moments, come back to the present moment and let go. With wisdom, we appreciate the present moment is all we have, and we move forward in the best way that we can, given the resources currently available to us. It takes a lot of courage to look into our hearts and our minds and unveil this otherwise unfolding process of unconscious conditioning. And it's super easy to just hear what I'm saying and glaze over these instructions and advice from the best teachers. But if we want to break out of this mad cycle that most of the world is enamored by, treating our desires with this sort of awareness and taking appropriate action To follow through with it, or put it to a halt, is what's necessary. We take the steps necessary to pull ourselves out of the illusion that most of us are enamored by. And in doing so, we can be of more service to the world, to reach the peak of the mountain in our lives.